to go up there to read for about 4 hours the case file in the civil case versus Gaddy. Now, Gaddy is Mrs. Carol Gaddy, her husband Thomas, an older couple. She is, I think, I'm not sure who's the elder of the two, but one is in the late 60s, the other in the early 70s. And they are in a dispute that's almost 2 years old with a municipal corporation called City of Dunlap. It is a municipal corporation that exercises authority granted to it under a charter. And it is a case that is very important for you, my listener. And it's very important for you, my listener, because it makes essential points, which if you have in the back of your mind tucked away, not in detail, but if you have them tucked away in sort of the points of general equity, okay, in generalities, you will be a richer man for it. And you will be less likely to be intimidated by the good people. We know the good people. We love the good people. They care for us. They are securing our futures. They have given us Social Security. They have given us the Pentagram and the Department of Defense. They have given us highways. They have given us inflation. We have the benefit of inflationary money, which is constantly declining in value. And so we can take advantage. We have an inducement to take advantage of another great benefit of our modern era. And that, of course, is debt. When we have debt, we are immediately rich. And we know that. We know we're rich if we have debt. And so inflation is the goad to get us to borrow and borrow again and borrow again. And everybody today has, when he has lunch and he's pouring his ketchup on the open face of his bread on his sandwich, he has a mortgage on his sandwich. Everybody mortgages his sandwiches in addition to his cars. Because we have the good people, we are greatly enriched. We are greatly enriched people. I'm laughing because in a way our situation as Tennesseans, our situation as Chattanoogans is simply pathetic. It is pathetic, and we deserve it. We deserve a pathetic situation. Well, look, for example, before I get to the Gaddy case and my findings, my findings of fact and law in the Gaddy case. Look just briefly at how slow we are. You, my listener, and I, we are so slow. We are just held back by lethargy. We've all been publicly educated, so this maybe explained why. But the debate over Signal Mountain, bailing out possibly from the cartel school system, has just raised cries of alarm. The Chattanooga Times editorial page, for example, a couple days ago, claiming that evil is ahead, that we cannot have education in silos, that if we don't break up this large cartel, the biggest company in Hamilton County is the school system. It's a government company. Just face it. If we break that up, if we make it so that we don't have 43,000 children in one corporation delivery system, hallways and classrooms, well, we are gonna become an ignorant people. We're gonna be just poorer in our minds and in our hearts, living in silos, as the editorial says. We already know a thing or two about wasting educational dollars, but imagine how much we can learn about squander when we pay for 3 or 4 or 5 central offices forming new separate school systems will cheat all of our children. Wake up, folks. Stop blaming. Start going to school board meetings and Hamilton County Commission meetings. It isn't just change you want. What you want is for your schools to be better. That will happen only when the school board and the Hamilton County Schools Administration and the County Commission hear from you again and again and again. This is what we hear from the Chattanooga Times. Pam Sohn, who I will always remember Pam after her demise or mine, whichever comes first, that she said Mrs. Clinton should be voted for because she has heart. This is Pam Sohn's great line. Mrs. Clinton has heart. Sohn, the editorial writer. Well, the story at WRCB TV just quickly tells us about how the council of that little town voted in favor of a committee to form or to consider. I mean, they're voting for a committee to consider forming. Right, that's the headline, and from Ken Nicholson's mighty pen there at WRCB TV, to study this prospect of decentralization. And decentralization is what the future is all about. It's about not just decentralized systems, but distributed systems, something that Dave Crockett, the candidate for mayor, has thought a lot about, and in fact drummed into me the difference recently in an interview. Which I have made extensive notes on this interview with Dave Crockett, and have yet to write that interview out and give you my take on Dave Crockett. He's trying to show that he and I are very much alike. That's what he's trying to do, and on many important points that are very remarkably out of the normal stream of discourse. He's right. Now, of course, it's not the normal stream of discourse. I'll have you know is not what you have here. Between you and me, my listener, my listener at Nooga Radio, and me, this is the normal discourse, which is, as I say, out of the conventional manner of speech. But now, what about the Gaddy case? Here's kind of what I'm seeing in this case. There's a deadline coming up. I believe it may be Friday, or it may fall on a Saturday or Sunday. A hearing last Thursday, indicated that the couple have 10 days to comply, or there will be a contempt finding and a jailing. That's a jailing. Now, there's some interesting parts coming into play here. You might say that are legal, but what's really encouraging, I would say, even though the Gaddys may be doing some things not appropriately, may not be defending their rights at the right point. They are an example to people like you. I'd say they're an example to people like me, also because they are doing one important thing, kind of modeling our heritage for us today in living color, in technicolor, and that is they are being a belligerent claimants in person. They're saying, I have a right, and I'm not giving up my right, and nothing you say will make me give it up, and I'm going down shooting, if you will. Though, of course, the idea of force does not take part in this picture, except that by the city. Dwayne Land is the mayor, except by his city and the sheriff's deputies that will bring some kind of pistol force to bear, handcuffs and pistols to bear on this couple. The force in this story belongs solely on the part of one of the parties of the civil dispute, evoked by the refusal of Mr. and Mrs. Gaddy to comply. And so the crime is not, well, you didn't allow an inspection of your land. The crime is contempt of court. Now, that is, if it is a crime, which I suppose it is a jury triable offense. Now, that's I said to Mrs. Gaddy a couple times. I said, look, if you're found in contempt, don't make the mistake you've already made once, and that is to just go to the jail at the hand of the warder, his gloved hand, rubber gloved hand on your elbow, leading you out of the courtroom door. What you have to do is immediately demand a jury trial, and that because if it's a criminal offense, it has to be triable by a jury, and criminal contempt is what it is. It's criminal, and so it has to be tried by a jury. And so what has to happen is that the defendant in a case like that has to immediately demand a jury trial and have it entered into the record. That so then if there's not a jury trial, then the judge is acting outside of his authority and is personally putting, that would be Judge Thomas Graham, the circuit court judge there, he will be personally putting her in jail apart from his authority. In other words, he's acting as his naked man, apart from the judicial robe that he wears, that is the sign and picture of his authority. His authority is in his office. It's not in his flesh and blood, in his 185 pounds of flesh and bone, skin and hair, and 98% of that is water, we're told by the biologists. That's not his authority. It's not personal. It is corporate, and it is through the state, and it is in the office of judge. Without a trial, without granting Mr. and Mrs. Gaddy a trial for a contempt finding, I would suggest he's acting in his personal capacity. And that's dangerous to do for any official, because then you are subject to the oppression statute for knowingly and intentionally depriving someone of their rights or their property. We do have in Tennessee an oppression statute, which I would say every police officer, every chief of police, every sheriff, every council member should be aware of, because it is aimed at such actors as that we call them for short, state actors. Though sometimes the script may be bad, they all try to do their very best to give a thrilling performance. Well, this is David Tulis, and we are here at Nooga Radio. The David Tulis Show is brought to you by Nooganomics, the website for the man who matters. No, it's not popular, and no, it is not rich. But what it is, Nooganomics.com, is the following: a website for the man who matters, who goes into detail and he wants to know the subtext, right, the background text of things, they call it the backstory, right? Backstory is something that even your TV newscasters, your info babes, know how to use. They're wanting the backstory of something. So that is what we get here. And we see how things really work, and we are determined to bring about a good defense of liberty, marriage, and prosperity. Now, to maintain prosperity, we have to understand the limits of those parties that would most readily oppress the prosperous man or woman, and that would be the state. It's not the market, right? The market does not oppress you. The market simply guides you and sometimes defeats you. If you make a bad decision or hire a wrong person, you may have market feedback that's negative, right? That's not humiliation. It is the state which invariably arranges things so that everybody is continually humiliated. And sometimes people in particular are humiliated by direct injection of force against them, and that would be the defendant, right? The person who is sued by the good people in court, sued civilly, sued criminally, and made at some point to cry uncle to pay a fine without admitting liability in the civil side, say facing a Security and Exchange Commission investigation, or criminally by plea bargaining, right? Now, in Dunlap, let me get to the nub here, the main point for you, my listener. Here is the main point. And it's this, that the demand by Dunlap for an inspection is really a civil language to describe what is, in the criminal context, a search. Dunlap is demanding for a search, and it is demanding to make a search without a warrant. It's called an inspection, but it is the same thing. It is the state itself. A municipal corporation is the state itself, just in a reproduced, smaller form, to provide local governmental services. That's what a municipal corporation is. It is the state itself with a state charter. It is a state entity. It is not a private entity. It is not a quasi-governmental entity. Nor is it a pseudo-governmental entity. A town, Chattanooga is no different. A town like Dunlap is a state entity. And so when it's making a demand of any kind, it has to follow the law. Now, the criticism I would offer of the Gaddys is that, as I judged by the filings in the case, which took me about 4 hours to go through yesterday, and I felt I could have borne another 2 getting things accurately down and understood, and getting the context proper. The fault of the Gaddys is that they're not perhaps pointing out this one point, even though they are making a godly, a kind of Bible-oriented, a Constitution-oriented defense of themselves and their dealings, their private dealings on their land. They have not suggested the following: that the city needs to have an affidavit of probable cause. And it doesn't. The city does not have an affidavit of probable cause. That's my analysis. Now, that is that's something that Stephen Greer, in an office just across the main intersection there with Rankin Ave and Cherry Street down on the downtown of Dunlap. He's across from the library, and just a bit down from the library, I think within the same block, is City Hall. He does not have that. His whole effort is based on an affidavit, a sworn affidavit, but it's not an affidavit of probable cause. It's an affidavit of a demand for inspection. We demand to inspect, and don't, as I read that, it's like the first page in a two volume set of papers. It does not deal with probable cause. There has to be an affidavit of probable cause, and it has to show that there's a crime of some kind that's been committed. Now, it's not a difference of opinion. It's not anything that's civil in nature. These are not civil torts that are in view. When the state wants to come in, it has to have a criminal argument. It has to be that you have committed a crime. Everyone admits that the Gaddys who have been working on that house for 18 years are making improvements. There's no stretch of imagination that one could say that these improvements are criminal. They're not criminal. They are private. It is on private property. Private property in the municipal corporation of Dunlap. Now, that last point, let me just say there's dispute there by Mr. and Mrs. Gaddy on whether the city properly annexed that whole southern part of the city. And if you look at Google Maps, go to Google Maps and say city of Dunlap, Tennessee, it will show the sort of it's like a lumpy looking egg, okay? A lumpy looking egg with some ins and outs along the side of it. On that southern part, that's where the Gaddys live. But the Gaddy house is, I don't know, it seems like about a mile within the border, the nearest border. And so to say, as this couple does or do, that annexation did not take place seems a bit far-fetched. But the evidence for annexation in the record is odd. Let me just say it's odd. It does not seem to be complete. There is a survey that's done that you can read about, a paragraph on that survey that says definitely the house of the Gaddys, house built just after the war to prevent Southern independence by the First Circuit judge of the county, Mrs. Gaddy says, that is well within the city boundary, according to the surveyor. But the initial annexation in 1972 and the recent filings in this case, which is 50 years later, really don't establish what you would call important in an annexation. For example, in an annexation, there's an expansion of the municipal corporation. In other words, we have a company, it's called City of Dunlap, and we're going to expand our geographical claims upon a new group of people. We will absorb them. We will impose upon them rules and taxes. We will impose upon them a police department. And in exchange, we will give them benefits such as sewer, lower insurance rates, and garbage pickup, and other things like that. They can actually attend city council meetings now, right? That's one of the benefits of being in a municipal corporation. Well, that act back in 72 should have had, say, a mailing list of every owner, right? Every parcel on the county deed book would be incorporated into a list that says, we are incorporating these people, these houses, these businesses, these empty lots, this bit of forest land here, this bit of field there on the edge of Dunlap. We're going to incorporate that into our town. And so these are the people who are now going to be paying taxes, right, to fund our fire department and fund street light repair and pothole repair. Well, there's no such list. That list does not exist. So when did that happen? Who are these people who now are taxpayers in the city of Dunlap? So Mrs. Gaddy says, well, they're all getting bills, including she and her husband got a tax bill last week. But when were they, by enumeration, when were they taken in? That's the question she's asking. And so it seems to me a fair question. And it's not answered by the city's filings in the record, in the court record at Circuit Court, overseen by Court Clerk Karen Millsaps, who let me look at it yesterday and take some time at one of her open tables to review this. So this seems to be a weak part on the city side, but there's more. And it comes back to that initial claim. Is that an affidavit signed by the mayor, by Dwayne Land? Is that sufficient to impose by threat of force a warrant for a search? Now, the city, again, calls it an inspection, but in fact, it's a search. And the Gaddys have not framed the issue that way. I think what has to happen at the hearing is that the Gaddys need to demand and insist on seeing an affidavit of probable cause. And if there's not one, the case should be thrown out. Judge Thomas Graham should throw the case out for warrant of probable cause. It is a criminal matter, but the city's going at it civilly, and I think could be defeated, and the Gaddys left alone. The whole thing's gone away with asking the right question. If you ask the right question, you'll get the right answer to the right question. If you ask the wrong question, you'll get the right answer to the wrong question. You will get nowhere. This is David Tulis.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240. McCune Williams & Ashley PLLC offers a full array of legal services to meet the needs of businesses and individuals. Our attorneys represent diverse backgrounds, interests, and legal emphasis, but we share one common goal: providing the highest quality legal services to our clients through the combination of our talents, experience, and expertise. In each case, we strive to tailor those services to meet each client's specific circumstances. Business law, business organization, civil litigation, commercial litigation, conservatorship and guardian law, bankruptcy law, just to name a few. With over 188 years of combined experience, McCune Williams Ashley PLLC is here to help you and your business succeed. MWALawfirm.com. That's MWALawfirm.com. Call 423-756-6400. That's 423-756-6400.
Is your career taking you where you want to go? If not, talk to Covenant Group Insurance, especially if you like helping people. Call and learn how you can work for yourself, but not by yourself. Intense but free training, plus a fantastic lead program, plus office support equals your success, your prosperity. Gross at least $75,000 your first year selling insurance. Call Steve or Jada for a confidential interview. That's 855-8484. Maybe the most important call you'll make all year.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available and a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson. Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929. There's a reason why Alliance Physical Therapy is a choice of professionals and those who care about first-class, top-notch service and treatment. Because at Alliance Physical Therapy of Chattanooga, we don't just treat the symptoms in your body. Whether you're suffering from stiffness, muscle spasms, back pain, chronic headaches every day, stress of life demanding more and more of you, Alliance Physical Therapy takes a holistic approach to healing, mind, body, and soul. Alliance Physical Therapy with a location near you and 9 others in the Chattanooga area. If you don't have a doctor or if your physician's plan for chronic pain is not working, Alliance Physical Therapy will help. Visit Alliance Physical Therapy on the web at nopainpt.com. That's nopainpt.com. Alliance Physical Therapy.
Looking for a dream home, or maybe you're just a first-time home buyer? Let an agent get you started today on your house search. If you're a real estate agent looking for a change, see what Exit can do for you. The agents at Exit Realty Scenic City are confident they can sell your house. They can do it in 99 days or less. If no one works harder for you than agents at Exit Realty Scenic City, licensed in Tennessee and Georgia. Exit sells quickly all types of commercial and residential properties and vacant land. Looking for a dream home, or maybe you're just a first-time home buyer? Let an agent get you started today on your house search. If you're a real estate agent looking for a change, see what Exit can do for you. Training, technology, branding, culture, and financial freedom. Again, Exit Realty Scenic City. Call 423-551-EXIT to learn more. Call 423-551-EXIT and learn more.
Terms and restrictions may apply.
We're at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Yes, ma'am. 2 orders of nachos with beef and beans and 2 beers. Chattanooga loves its Amigos restaurants, but the Amigos in Hickson has something extra. NCAA, the week's big game. How about a house wine? Really good. Big name beers. Just tell Maria what you want. And here at Amigos, margaritas are popular. And it's only $3 a day. If you come here on a game day, Saturday, a Natty Light is only $2.25.
Here at Amigos, just during NCAA, Natty Light, $2.25. Amigos Mexican Restaurant in Hickson. The happy hours 3 to 9 today and every day. I'd say the atmosphere is festive. Look at that huge TV. It's like being amid the fans under a bright sun, but without all the heat. Stay cool. Quench your thirst. Amigos, between the Staples and Hobby Lobby. Take the table next to mine and enjoy the great NCAA game with friend or family here at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Okay, it's starting.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Nooga Radio News. Russell Stroud reporting. A new contestant added to the race for mayor. With just a few days till the Thursday at 12 deadline, Gail M. Francis, a former staff member at Tennessee Temple University teaching phys ed and sign language, is running for mayor. The qualifying deadline is Thursday at noon, quickly approaching. She joins David Crockett, Larry Groen, Chris Long, and the incumbent Andy Burke in the race for mayor. Keep it tuned here for continuing election coverage on Nooga Radio. After the Woodmore bus tragedy, the first lawsuit has been filed on behalf of the deceased. Attorneys for the parents of Ziana Harris are now seeking $5.5 million in a complaint filed in circuit court. The complaint is against Durham School Services and the driver, Jonathan Walker. It also names Thomas Built Buses, the company which constructed the bus, which failed to put seatbelts inside. After police got a call about a car crash, they went to the scene and found a very intoxicated man, they say, who offered $10 and then $20 for officers to just forget about the whole thing. He was then arrested.
Expect some lingering clouds, but drier weather out there through your afternoon. High settling into the upper 50s. Tonight, partly cloudy, chilly, lows near 40. For Tuesday, a few more spotty showers will pass through for the first half of the day. Highs near 55. Then drier Wednesday, breezy and colder on Thursday. This forecast is brought to you by Vicks, Dayquil, and NyQuil. The nighttime sneezing, coughing, fever. Best sleep with a cold medicine around. Read each label and use as directed. And I'm Swarsheen 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Core.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here's what advertisers are saying about AM 1240. HotNewsTalkRadio.com.
Radio station, they really care. They're always calling me probably once a week, checking on me, seeing how things going, see if they want to change any of the ads or do anything different, seeing what my needs are. I've gotten business off the ads that you do for me, and seems to be working well at this point.
Prices were very fair. Areas in this town that we aren't able to get other ways, your radio station is able to help us out, and I really appreciate that.
We've been very pleased with the services we've got. It seems like everybody over there cares about what they're going to do, how it's going to work for us on this end. And we've been very impressed with the creativity of the ads that we've heard. And they always seem to be right on point, even without us having to come up with what's going to be said.
I've been doing business with News Talk Radio for quite some time. It's the best place and the best value you can get for your advertisement. The commercials are great. They're very professional. I was actually blown away.
The commercial that they put together was awesome. It was way far above all the other radio stations we've dealt with. The best we've had yet, guarantee you, by far.
AM 1240, HotNewsTalkRadio.com gets results. Let us get results for your business. For no obligation free consultation, call General Sales Manager Steve Johnson. Call 423-240-5459. That's 240-5459. Or you can always email Steve at NoogaRadioSteve@gmail.com. That's NoogaRadioSteve@gmail.com. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We get results.
If you want to know how the world really works, then it might be worth your time to tune in again tomorrow and have a friend tune in to the David Tulis Show. That is my name, David Tulis. I'm glad you were giving me just a couple of minutes of your time. Now, radio has great power, a terrific immediacy, and when you hear a host on his program, why would you need to go to where he writes? Right? There's really no need to read anything he has to say, because you're getting it all right there, right now. And you get that even if you're there just for 5 minutes, you're getting everything he needs to tell you in that 5 minutes. And so there's not really a need in your mind to go and read what he says elsewhere in other forums. I understand that. I'm the same way. But I do have I have rich and deep analysis, sometimes actually a little humorous, at Nooganomics.com. Our sponsor, my chief sponsor, Nooganomics.com. The website for the man who matters, not a popular one, but then really it doesn't need to be popular. It just needs to be read by the people who matter. There are not many of those. There are a few opinion leaders, and their opinions go downstream, you might say, to others picked up in chat rooms and Facebook posts, and people remember names and remember facts and things because they heard it from someone who heard it from someone who heard it from me, perhaps. That's my goal, is to work with individuals. And so that's why my show is really just given for you individually, the listener of the show. I'm here just for you. And I really am grateful to you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time just every day here for a couple hours. I'm here 9 to 11. And so you just drop in when you feel like. And just, by the way, drop in also at Panera Posse. Panera Posse is my little break. Okay, I'm a hardworking writer and journalist. My break is every Friday morning at the Panera Bread store in Hickson, where I go for the usual meeting with some other dads. They're all homeschool dads, as it turns out. We're very suspicious of the way things are, and we have among us ideas and dreams of a better society and a better future, one influenced by God, believe it or not. And we're working in that direction day by day, child by child, one interaction by one interaction. It's a very slow, glacial process of reform and improving ourselves. Panera Posse, which rounds up the bad guys and puts the money back in the bank. And you want to know what my usual is, right? Well, let me just tell you. It's a blueberry bagel, well toasted, with 3 butters and a small coffee. That's what I always have. And when the young folks behind the counter see me, they just get it started because they know that I don't really change. I'm one of those regulars with a very routine delight. It's just once a week, and so that bagel is just a delight for me. And they are very good, by the way, at Panera Bread store in Hickson. Now, if you want to have contact with another listener on my show, my listener being the businessman running that fine business, that fine service, giving advice maybe, or working on transmissions, or maybe maybe you're like S&S Auto Repair, giving me a great service. S&S Auto Repair, by the way, is where I get my car fixed. That's my default garage. And I go there even though it's way out of my way. It's very inconvenient to go to S&S Auto Repair for me because it's in Brainerd on Vance Road, just off of Vance. And I live in Soddy Daisy, so it's just a bear to have a car repair done there. But that's what I do. And why do I do that? Because I believe in the people at S&S Auto Repair, and I just trust them. And I've had long dealings with that family, the Smith family. Aaron, the son, running the shop now. Steve, the dad, doing a lot of things still kind of in second place. And so I get a good repair there. So if you want to meet people, know people who get business from being on my station, do call Steve Johnson. Steve Johnson, our sales manager, and his number is 240-5459. Just write that down, Steve Johnson. Yeah, you got your pen? Okay, it's 240-5459, 240-5459 to address the other listeners out there. There are other listeners, but you're the one who matters. And I'm really glad that you're tuning in to my program. We're the station with NASCAR and Nooga Radio. Sean Hannity, Colin Cowherd. We've got Coast to Coast AM in the night watches. We've got Jill Ann Collins in the arts on Thursday. We've got a terrific Legal Bites program tomorrow. Just after my program, we have Clutch with Keon Rose. Now in Dunlap, there's a well, I was going to say something else about insights. Well, if you go today at Nooganomics.com, I published another story, and it's about a mystery. Okay, it's about a mystery, and the lawyers who are filing these lawsuits in the Tally Road bus crash against Jonathan Walker and Durham School Services, they are revealing a secret. They're revealing a secret about the way the world works. And it's a secret you hadn't really thought about, but it's important because I'm hoping that we can restore something that we've lost. And the lawyers, they're not going to just tell you straight out, right? They're not going to tell you just openly what the secret is. But if you read their filings, you will see very clearly the outlines of it. And what I've done at Nooganomics.com in my open secret essay posted this morning is to let you look at how things work. And it is the thing that touches on constitutionally protected rights, of course, and how the way things work make those rights almost impossible to even understand. Though I would suggest that you, my listener, have so many rights that you could not fill up an entire yellow pad writing front and back on single lines only all the rights that you in fact have, all the things that you can do at liberty without the pretense of yielding to a state demand for your requesting its permission, right, to do something. You don't have to ask permission. So go to Nooganomics.com, and there is it's a website that is unlike any other, and it's all about Chattanooga, written specifically for you, the Chattanooga Hamilton County man who matters, right? You matter because you think about things and you're willing to be slightly, very, very slightly influenced by my way of thinking about important issues. John Harris at Tennessee Firearms Association this morning posted a meme, and you can see that meme at our Facebook page, the Hot News Talk Radio Facebook page, and it has a list of things that you cannot do without the government's permission, and it's very, very funny. It says, build a house, drive a car, own a gun, go fishing, collect rainwater, hunt, cross the road, get married, leave the country, start a business, fly on a commercial plane, take drugs, and work. Actually, trying to think of something that doesn't require government permission. And then to make the point just a bit sharper with a little bit of poison on the end of it, it says, now repeat after me. I am free. And most people think they're free and that our soldiers died for their freedom, right? They all think that. That's called conventional thinking. And our police officers are there to keep us free. That's called, yeah, you got it. That's right. Same thing. Well, in Dunlap, this week there's a crisis coming to a head, and it is between Thomas and Carol Gaddy, about whom you've read at Nooganomics.com. The only media platform that has covered that case is probably the best TV station in Chattanooga, and that's TV3. TV3 sent up a reporter at the very moment of a crisis between the officers of the law and the town officials, and this couple hiding behind their fence, a fence put up to keep them out on Main Street in Dunlap. Dunlap's in Sequatchie Valley. It's a beautiful valley. And I took a picture of this yesterday when I went there of a logging truck passing the Greer law firm, which Mr. Stephen Greer is the city attorney, and his office is a kind of catty corner across the main intersection there between Cherry Street and Rankin Ave. And he's just opposite the library, an old fortress-looking building run by some very sweet women inside who gave me some directions yesterday. And right next to that building, more or less, is the city hall. And so I took a picture, and there was a logging truck right in front of the building. It's a great picture because it said, "This is rural America." This is working rural America, hardworking, logging-oriented, farm-oriented town. And in that town, not far from the main drag, is this couple with their son Kelly, who is a contractor and a carpenter, and I think he has some electrical qualifications as well. They are living in an old house built just after the war to prevent Southern independence by a Judge Campbell, I think his name is, or name was, and they're living in that house. But there's been a dispute over the property, and the dispute has had Mrs. Gaddy in jail on contempt charges for 2 nights. I believe that was late November, and many filings. There are 2 large sheets of filings in this case. 7, well, maybe, I'm not sure, maybe 700, 800 pages. I gave 4 hours to that file yesterday on your behalf, right? I do that on your behalf so I can know what I'm talking about and not just speculating from a distance. And absorbed as much as I could of all that type, all those exhibits, photographs. Now I've got a call. This is David Tulis, and caller, you're live on the David Tulis program. What's on your mind? What do you have to contribute to our conversation?
I know you're talking about the Gaddys over there in Sequatchie County.
Yes.
And I can't make this any clearer. There is no government official allowed on your property without a search warrant, period. Now that's your property. If you're a licensed entity for permission to operate your business, that's something different. If you're open to the public, like if you run a restaurant or a gas station, they can walk in and inspect it because you've given them permission to do that through your license. It's called implied consent. You're a normal person like you and me, in our homes, the government cannot invade your property without an affidavit of probable cause. That means somebody has to go into a courtroom or do it via piece of paper by saying that they suspect you're breaking the law, you're violating the law, and they sign their name to that. It's called oath or affirmation. And then an impartial judge has to determine whether or not that affidavit is valid and issue a warrant specifically searching the place in violation of the law. And all this has to be specific. It can't be a broad search. This has been ruled over and over and over again. So the Gaddys are missing the point. I don't know that there's an affidavit of probable cause to search. I don't know that there's a search warrant. I don't care if they're cooking meth in their house. The government has to have an affidavit, they have to have a search warrant, or they can't set foot on that property. That is the law. It's the Fourth Amendment. And somehow, maybe Sequatchie County evidently just abolished the Fourth Amendment somehow. They think they can do that. Or abolish the rights under Tennessee Constitution. I don't know. Is Sequatchie County above the law?
Well, let me ask you this, caller. Is a municipal corporation such as Dunlap, it's called the City of Dunlap, it has a state charter, is a municipal corporation, or does it have the power to destroy, deny, or delete a constitutional right? Because that seems to be the way the case is being framed, that we can come on your property because you are in our boundary. Because you're in our boundary, your house is receiving the benefits and protection of our municipal corporation. You have an implied consent. That seems to be the way the city, with Stephen Greer as the attorney, is operating.
I argued this case in Pennsylvania with the school district, and they operate by permission of the state. Their life is breathed into them by state permission, which means they're bound by the Constitution. They're bound by the rules. Everyone from the dog catcher to the president is bound by oath of office to the Constitution, and they have to obey it. They can't supersede that by some sort of fiction of law. You can't just say, well, because you're benefiting from. I mean, look at the read Hell versus Hinkle. Hell versus Hinkle there's a clear distinction between an individual and a corporation. The corporation has to give their books and records up and so on and so forth. But an individual has no duty to do that at all. So the individual and their property are protected under. It's not a privilege; it's a right under Amendment 4 and 5.
All right. So Mike, what you tell? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
All right. So in this case, in Dunlap, the city is saying they're not using the language of search; they're using the language of inspection. And it is an open inspection. They want to be able to come in there with photographs and cameras. They want to be able to look in every room under the house. They want to look behind the wall where there's a well. The Gaddys had a well that they had to put a wall around because the city has a lot next to their land, and there's huge offlow of water and heavy rain. The city's land floods the Gaddy property, and so they built a wall around their well to keep their drinking water source pure.
Well, tell your kid you don't want to search their room, you want to inspect it. And I bet you they even know the difference. But there is none.
Well, is there a difference?
No, of course not. I don't want to search your room. I want to inspect it. The kid will go, it's the same thing.
Okay, so you're
6 years old.
You're saying that the word inspection is intended to disarm the Gaddy's defense. And the Gaddys should have the defense of, no, this is not an inspection. This is a search. And you have to meet the requirement. You, the city of Dunlap, have to have meet the requirement for there to be a criminally prosecutable act and a witness that attests under oath that he knows about, has personal knowledge about this act being done.
Yeah, have they argued that yet?
No. My reading of the file indicates that the Gaddys have not made that point.
You see, let me tell you, I'm not giving legal advice.
No.
Because I don't practice law. I know the law. And I'll tell anybody that I'm not bound by any government that tells me I can't give legal advice. I don't give advice. I'm telling people what the law is. The Constitution and the Bill of Rights were written for the average person. Everyone should be able to understand the Constitution. It was written in plain English language. But since we've dumbed down an entire nation, people think it has to be interpreted because we can't figure it out. Well, it's clear language. Read the Fourth Amendment. There's no ambiguity at all in the Fourth or Fifth Amendments. And it's clear that Sequatchie County is reaching beyond the bounds of their authority.
Well, this is the city of Dunlap.
To do it. You cannot come on my property unless you want to risk getting shot, unless I see a search warrant, and it better be a legal one. Because sometimes the search warrant alone still isn't good enough.
Well, it seems to me, Mike.
David, it's got to be specific too. It can't be broad.
Give an example. Give an example. What would be something specific as opposed to general warrant, Mike?
Okay, prime example. The police informant comes out and says in the back bedroom, on the left-hand side, the very far bedroom, one of our agents made a purchase of cocaine, and that's where they're cutting the cocaine. That's where the cocaine is stored. They have to make that specific in the warrant. They just can't walk in the house and tear the entire house apart and say, well, we also found a gun under the sofa, and we're going to use that against you. You can't do that. It's got to be very specific as to where the evidence is searched.
There has to be a form of knowing. Mike, what you're saying is there has to be a form of knowing or knowledge on this part of the state actor. He then has to affirm under penalty of perjury before a judge that he knows that there's an illegal act being done or has been done or some kind of illegal contraband or substance. That has not in the Dunlap does not have anything like that in this case.
And every once in a while, a person will go, "Well, why should the police have to do that? They were doing something wrong." And blah, blah. And you have to think in terms of why this was done. The King's men were just bursting into houses, look into people's records to see if they were paying their taxes. Oh, they do that now.
Oops.
Voluntarily give that information. And they were searching their carriages and so on and so forth under the guise of the welfare of the state. Oh, well, they do that now. So, I mean, it comes down to what kind of country do you want, what nation do you want to live in? A nation of liberty and security with the potential of threat, or a nation that calls themselves a police state where the trains are going to run on time, crime's going to be diminished, but you have no individual liberty. It is none of the government's business what you do in your house. None. And if they own property, they can do whatever they want with their property. I don't even know how they're bound by the rules and regulations of that government if they own their property, because property can't be touched.
This is David Tulis, and we're talking with Mike, and we are glad that you called, Mike. One real quick question. We have about a minute. Define in a nutshell what the term is belligerent claimant in person. The Gaddys are doing that. They are acting belligerently as claimants in person.
Okay,
what does that mean?
The government institutions of learning and the schools and the churches have all lied to the people. They tell the people they have rights. You have no rights. They're words on a piece of paper. They're like your muscles. Atrophy until you work them. You have to get those words and breathe them to life and be warlike. Belligerent is warlike. And the courts have ruled this, that if the police say, I want to come into your house, and you say no, and you don't hold that door till they break it down, the courts won't see that you actually exercise that Fifth Amendment right. Because the cop will just say, he let us in. You have to stand firm and be willing to go to jail or die. Sorry, but that's how rights are exercised. You have to be warlike. You have to show the court that you stood your ground. We're not a timid people. Timid people don't have rights.
Well, this is David Tulis, and Mike, thanks very much for your call. We are at the David Tulis program here at Nooga Radio. We're the station that is all talk all the time, and I do thank you very much for tuning in. Go to Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters. Is a terrific story today on another area that we have explored here, and that is the role of commercial government. Commercial government divides, well, I should say it conflates civil law and criminal law together, and it's a conflation. It is a confusion, a union of two spheres of law, damaging to liberty, and they infuse all of us with fear of the state. This confusion has brought us the state we have today, the total welfare, total corporate state, the corporatocracy, if you will, of American government. We are here in Chattanooga, here in Helena County, trying to prosper despite these long-term trends that work against us and have worked against us probably since the time that our armies fell before the Blue Horde and their bayonets and their monitors and their cannons. We fought to keep them out, but we have them here everywhere with us, among us, and in fact, we become like them. We wear blue as they do, and we can't really see anymore our way to being a free people. Now, Christianity promises that a man is not free, not a slave of sin anymore. He's not enslaved to his passions, his lusts, his covetings, his vainglory, his vanity, his backbiting. He's not slave to those things anymore. He is, in fact, a son or slave of the Lord Jesus Christ, whose law is perfect. And because Americans have rejected Christianity by and large, they've adopted a very weak version of it. They don't have a lot of use for the kinds of things that we explore here at the David Tulis program, in which I explore frequently in many ways in detail at Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters. So find out the secret. There's an open secret that the lawyers are telling in their lawsuits. The 6th lawsuit has been filed. This is not one for an injured child. It is the first one on behalf of a child who died. And the parents of Ziana Harris are demanding $5.5 million in their complaint filed in circuit court. It notes that there is a $750,000 limit on non-economic damages in Tennessee. However, the case, according to the note here at Chattanooga.com, says this case could go to a jury at a much higher amount. Well, this is David Tulis. I'm glad you're giving me a few minutes of your time. We are at the talk station. And we are glad that you are in the audience, and that I suggest you have a friend tune in and join us every weekday here. This is David Tulis, and I do thank you for tuning in. We are noting also that Larry Groen, the candidate for mayor, is claiming that the Burke administration, Andy Burke, has no character and no ethics, and so go to Nooganomics.
With other dogs. You should have seen him on his webcam. He was playing. He was eating. He actually got to like watching TV.
So that's what the boarding is like at the Inn at Wolftever.
Pools, play yards. He's a real show-off, a ball chaser. I really like Wolftever's play yards. The romping area, that matters to me. He really needs regular play with other dogs. It's healthy for him.
The Inn at Wolftever. Click wolftever.com. Wolftever.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
WSDT Sunny Daisy, Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. A high-octane oil man is Donald Trump's controversial pick for Secretary of State. Live to CBS News correspondent Stephen Portnoy.
The 64-year-old Exxon executive, Rex Tillerson, has never served in government, but Condoleezza Rice calls the CEO an excellent choice for the post she filled during the Bush administration. University of Virginia political scientist Larry Sabato notes some in the GOP have expressed alarm.
There are already potentially enough Republican votes against the nomination in the Senate to kill it.
The Trump team and Rex Tillerson himself will have to work hard over the next few weeks to assuage Republicans worried about Tillerson's ties to Russian President Vladimir Putin. Marco Rubio, for one, says he has serious concerns. Frank?
There's little opposition left in eastern Aleppo. But Syria is determined to wipe out every last fighter. Jan Egeland with the UN says tens of thousands of civilians could become collateral damage. At least 82 have been killed.
The reports were coming in all night of horrible things and of desperate cries for help.
One report says more than 100 children were trapped in a building under attack. From Damascus, CBS's Deborah Pata tells us the UN has credible reports that pro-government forces are executing men, women, and children.
There are also reports of bodies lying in the streets and people unable to go and collect them, their loved ones, because they fear that they may be shot on sight.
An airstrike in Syria has taken out some top ISIS terrorists. CBS's Cammie McCormick has that.
The Pentagon says it killed 3 ISIS leaders directly involved in facilitating external terror operations and recruiting foreign fighters. 2 of them were believed connected to the Paris attacks last year. The third, the Pentagon says, was a suicide attack planner who was convicted in absentia in Belgium for a terrorist plot disrupted in 2015.
The family of a 73-year-old man in Bakersfield, California wants answers. Francisco Cerna's son, Rogelio, says police responding to a report of a man with a gun shot and killed his father for no good reason.
I don't know who's getting the story wrong, that he was brandishing a weapon. He doesn't arm himself with anything.
2 products in a lot of American homes are being recalled. About 8 million Cuisinart food processors have blades that can crack. Sharp pieces of metal could wind up hidden in food. Yankee Candle, meanwhile, is recalling luminous candles with jars that could crack when the candle is lit. If you happen to be on the road in the Hawkeye state, you're driving in the best state for motorists.
Iowa topped out our list, followed by Ohio, Maine, Wisconsin, and Vermont. California was the worst on our list.
Claus Bell with Bankrate.com says the ratings are based on a variety of factors, including the cost of keeping a car on the road. Smith & Wesson stockholders are meeting today to vote on changing the company's name to reflect its increasingly diverse business lines. Smith & Wesson will continue to be the brand name for firearms. In early trading, the Dow Industrials are up 96 points. This is CBS News.
Futures and options trading involves financial risk. It is not suitable for all investors.
Hi, I'm Larry Levin, president of Trading Advantage. I'm sure you've heard me talking about the markets on TV and radio. Here at Trading Advantage, we taught thousands of people how to trade. In fact, many of you listening have seen the success that comes from joining our programs. But for those who haven't, one of the most powerful ways we teach people is in our online live signals rooms. This is where my expert coaches call out live trading signals in stocks, options, futures, and Forex. I'm telling you this because I want you to try it for free today. Just call me and leave me your email address on my voicemail. I'll give you a password that will let you check it out for an entire trading day. Call 800-300-5711. My live signal rooms are exciting, fun, and you'll discover some trading methods you probably didn't know before. It's a great way to learn, and it's free. Just leave me a voicemail with your email address, and I'll give you a password so you can check it out. Call 800-300-5711 and leave me your email address on my voicemail to get your password. That's 800-300-5711. Again, that's 800-300-5711.
A ship's captain who was part of the migrant smuggling trade is going to prison in Italy.
In a verdict which will set a strong precedent in future cases, an Italian court convicted the 28-year-old captain of a migrant boat that sank in 2015 to 18 years in prison and a $9.5 million fine. 900 people died in the tragedy in what is considered the Mediterranean's worst disaster since World War II. The Tunisian captain was charged with multiple manslaughter, human trafficking, and causing the tragedy. Sabina Castelfranco, CBS News, Rome.
A federal judge is scheduled to consider an $11 million plea deal to settle a criminal case against the ConAgra Food Company. The settlement relates to a salmonella outbreak linked to ConAgra's Peter Pan peanut butter. The outbreak a decade ago made hundreds of people sick. Frank Sedapani,
Get a
CBS.
$350 credit on board your next cruise. Or
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
After this cool start, lots of sunshine and great looking weather again for your Monday. Still looking dry though for the next several days. Highs upper 70s. Tonight, clear, cool lows, mid and upper 40s. For Tuesday and Wednesday, the warm, dry weather continues. High 75 to 77. For lunch or dinner, come to Guthrie's, home of the original golden fried delicious chicken finger with their special sauce. Open daily, locations in Trenton, Signal Mountain, Ringgold, and now 5203 Brainerd Road. That's Guthrie's. And I'm Source 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
Martin Truex Jr. is off the pace and he is headed to the pit lane. Elliott Powers around the outside. Michael McDowell pops the right front tire. Here's Martin Truex to the bottom. Blaney blocks him off too. Meanwhile, Chase Elliott went 4 wide on the back straightaway. They're side by side for the lead.
Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Hot News Talk 1240.
The voice of NASCAR. Live from Chattanooga, Tennessee, it's David Tulis.
There's a story in the Chattanooga Times-Free Press today about a new partnership that promises to have available for people like your son, possibly, maybe even you, a school that will train in truck driving and eventually other trades as well. Welding, HVAC installation and repair are in view. Tranco, here's the lead. Tranco Logistics and Main Street Innovations have entered a partnership that could increase employment, the story says, among underserved populations. That is a strange wording to have that, to put that so high in the lead as if we all knew what it meant. An underserved population. Does that mean people who are receiving trucking services and need more, or what exactly? I think the reference is to perhaps poor people and minority races, possibly. But the league goes on to say, and lead to a new technical school in Chattanooga in the coming year. The Tennessee Higher Education Commission has given an approval to launch Tranco Tech Lab, LLC. And it'll be on East 29th Street. It's going to start off as a truck driving school. The wheels are rolling, says Byron Trantham, one of the owners at Tranco, which is a trucking and warehousing business. This man, the story says, owns the company with his brother, twin Bruce, and he says that he expects to roll out the driving portion of the school within the next 6 months. The story says they expect to spend about $400,000 getting certifications, computers, and a truck and trailer for the school. Now, Main Street Innovations is a staffing outfit run by Donna Christian Lowe and her husband, Marty. They formed the division of MSI Workforce Solutions, LLC, to supply the school and Tranco with job applicants, so that they were funneling people to training and to schooling. And that story's in the Chattanooga Times-Free Press this morning. I thought you'd want to hear about that. And other items in the news, there's a story about Larry Groen. I just wanted to mention he's firing salvos at Andy Burke, the Democrat lawyer, who a very smooth operator, a man who's impossible to reach. By the way, I can't get any kind of response hardly from his staff or the mayor. The mayor is just impossible to get hold of. It's as if he's already in Congress, right? The mayor it has such security and such an apparatus, such screening processes that the hoi polloi, such as David Tulis, your host, just can't get through. I'm just not there, not able to ask a question. Larry Groen says Mr. Jennings' punishment, speaking of the Lerone Jennings mini scandal of mispayment or malpayment within that man's families. He oversees the Department of Youth and Family Development. Mr. Jennings' punishment is a matter of a farce perpetrated upon the people of Chattanooga, Larry Groen says. His willful violation of the City Code of Ethics calls into question every disbursement of funds by the entire Department of Youth and Family Development. These actions would not be accepted or tolerated in a Groen administration. I call for a special investigation and comprehensive independent audit of the Department of Youth and Family Development. The most recent report only scratches the surface, he says, of improprieties within this administration. Well, there's a story also at lifesitenews.com about Planned Parenthood, which Mayor Groen is very much against, and Mayor Burke is very much for. Andy Burke is a traditional Democrat who favors large institutions, large mechanisms of pretended government welfare, but does not care for individuals. And that's because he doesn't care for unborn black children, namely girls. So if you're for abortion, you have to be not caring about female unborn minorities. You don't care about them. You only care about them after they're born, and then you want them to be injected immediately onto the welfare rolls. LifeSiteNews.com asked this question: does Planned Parenthood do any good for women's health? The numbers might surprise you. And this is touching on these other services that Planned Parenthood offers. Well, they're in a free fall, just like the credibility of MSM, Main Street Media. Breast cancer screenings are down 51% in the last 5 years. Pap tests are down 64.7%. Prenatal care, which that company is looking on phasing out, is down 44%. HPV treatments are down 37%. All of these declines have occurred in Planned Parenthood's fiscal years 2010 through 2014. Now, to MSN, BC, CNN, NBC, New York Times, HuffPo, and LA Times, and these other organizations, do they tell you about this striking loss in other services among our female population? Even STD testing, according to this piece in LifeSiteNews.com, is down. In the last 5 years, how many people reading this article have more than doubled their salaries at the same job with a situation of drastically declining services and customers? That's exactly what has happened for abortion mogul Cecile Richards. Despite a massive drop in patients from 3 million in 2010 to 2.5 million in 2014, she got a huge raise. She gets a 228% rise in her annual salary. In 2010, Mrs. Richards, or Ms. Richards, was paid $420,000 and some change. 4 years later, she was paid $952. That's one. The comment here is worth quoting. That's one blood-stained gravy train. And just think about the young girls who are black or who are Hispanic, or maybe even who are Oriental, who are destroyed by the baby killers at Planned Parenthood. They kill children, and then they sell their parts, and then they go after journalists such as David Tulis, who put his life on the line, put his honor on the line, put his liberty in jeopardy because he went after these very fine people at Planned Parenthood. In 2014, the nonprofit reported $309 million in health services income. Since taxpayer funding doesn't pay for any abortions, we're supposed to laugh at that. The only line item that would include abortion revenue is health services. Planned Parenthood reports that the cost of killing a baby in the first trimester can be up to $1,500 paper dollars. More specific costs can be found here, from $415 to $1,100 from 4 weeks to 18 weeks gestation. Now, the bigger the baby, the more expensive the destruction is. The average cost, assuming all PPFA abortions were first trimester, which they're not, would be $762 per black baby girl. So this cost times 323,999 abortions equals $247.049 million. And that's 80% of the health services revenue of this important corporate player on the American health scene. That's Planned Parenthood Planned Parenthood Federation of America. And this is according to LifeSiteNews.com. Speaking of reports that we're not getting in the Chattanooga Time-Free Press and our nationally affiliated broadcast outlets here, there's a story by Charles U. Smith, one of my favorite writers, that looks at what he sees is a kind of a fight in the deep state. There is the losing side right now in the deep state. That's the neocon side that backed Hillary Clinton, the financial and military establishment that backed the Democrat, and the resurgent part of the deep state. There are people apparently who don't want her to continue. They realize that continuing the trillion-dollar wars that have been fought for the past 15 years against enemies that don't have tanks or naval ships or aircraft, these so-called wars are enough, and that the country, the national government, already bankrupt, already falling. Well, it's not already falling; it's continuing to fall in its regard among the American people, who pay, who are ostensibly pay the bills, and who are going to be paying ostensibly, right, the debt. there are deep state actors, deep state interests that are glad to have her off the scene. Smith in his piece at of 2minds.com, I think, touches on some important points, and his essay looks at the false, the fake news story that came out of the Washington Post. His website is among those named as purveyor of Russia Today and Russian propaganda, RT, and Russia propaganda. He says, given the structure of the deep state and its intelligence community, minor disagreements over that report could well mean complete, total disavowal of the CIA's report, because the CIA says that it kind of a fact-free and evidence-free report that said hackers are involved in the election. Smith says, if the report is so secret, why is it dominating the news flow? Why was this, quote, secret report released now? What actual forensic evidence is there of intervention? Were voting machines tampered with? Or is this secret report just another dose of fact-free fake news like the Washington Post's list of 200 propaganda websites? I was not on that list, just so you know. I'm clean. David Tulis and Nooganomics are clean. But there was some minor disagreements among intelligence officials about the CIA assessment, so that could be a clue, according to Charles Hugh Smith, that there's really a deep division. That's how he wants to magnify that phrase, minor disagreements among intelligence officials, right? So he goes on to say that he says that there's on page 2 here, he has a chart that I think is very, very helpful and very colorful. I've had a chance to repost that at Nooganomics.com. If you're looking on our show at YouTube, you can see it right there. I'm holding it on. If you're on Facebook, I'm not showing it to you because it shows up backwards. Facebook has this problem of if you're using the camera that shows you holding the phone, what you're seeing, everything's backwards. So I'm showing it to the YouTube viewer. By the way, we are on YouTube, Hot News Talk Radio, and on Facebook, Hot News Talk Radio. The chart is a deep state network, and he says that there's an interest among some stakeholders in this deep state to not continue the way we were. And here comes Donald Trump, who, though he is an authoritarian and a fascist, and in many ways he's not a free marketer because he believes in executive power, just like President Obama believes in executive power. And Bush, believe me, Donald Trump will not scale back the use of it. He will not give it back to the people. He will use what he has, and if he's not using it, he will reserve it for the future. Right? That's why you have administrative and executive power. Of course, executive power is exerted through administrative law. It asserts itself administratively, and that is how he'll do it as well. This picture, I think, is valuable because it has in the center. What is the deep state, and what do we have to worry about it here in Chattanooga and Hamilton County? Is it something that we have to fight? No, you can't fight it. But I think because the government is so big and the country is so unmanageably large, we don't have a country really. We have an empire, and we are kind of at the heart of it here in Tennessee. It's too big to govern. We can't have even the remotest prospect of representative government. Chuck Fleischman, Senators Corker and Alexander, they don't represent us at all. They pretend to, and they give a show of it. They have district offices and so on, providing constituent services. But they don't really represent you or me, especially the local reps. They're not local, and they don't represent a given interest in a certain part of the country. And the reason they don't is because these boundaries, the gerrymandered boundaries of federal districts, are even less representative than, say, the boundaries of a city-state, which if Chattanooga were a city-state, it would be something that would look like what Thrive 2055 envisions in its 3-state grouping of interests that have at their center Chattanooga. But the deep state network has in the middle, it has Congress, executive branch, judiciary, and pentagram. And in the circle kind of on the outside of that, you've got the State Department, the UN, World Bank, federal regulators, the legal complex, the energy complex, the intelligence, CIA, NSA, DIA, the defense industry, political consultants, the K Street lobbies, the State Department. And then this is not a clean circle, by the way. These are kind of groupings that are not a clean, round circle. But the next level out, you would have the Federal Reserve, the Wall Street investment bankers, the tax evasion complex, the energy complex, the special forces, the Navy and Army and the Air Force, DARPA, and government research, political consultants, think tanks, foundations, NGOs, and official PR and outreach. That would be, of course, we have official PR through CNN, right? That's the official line of thinking as to what the government really thinks and what it wants us to think. That's from CNN and the major newspapers, Wall Street Journal included, even though it is conservative in many ways. And in the outer rim of the deep state network, you have, according to Charles Hugh Smith's copyrighted chart of 2minus.com, you have the mainstream media, you have global corps, corporate directors, think tanks, Ivy League schools, research universities, Silicon Valley, black budget items, that would be skystriping, and the Department of Energy with its nukes, the transportation complex, hedge funds, again, on the outer fringes of this lumpy-looking circle. And as it goes on around, you have the retail banking and mortgage sector and Madison Avenue. That's the deep state. And it's not a definable jurisdiction, but it's a complex of mutually reinforcing interests that want things to be kept as they are and cannot be reformed. Because we have a deep state, there cannot be reform. It is simply impossible. It cannot happen. Somewhere in there is the schooling complex. And, of course, schooling is said to be a state and local thing, but really it's not. School anymore brings to the state the kind of people it wants. And I'm looking one of my favorite authors, whose lectures, by the way, are online. I'm listening to one in the mornings as I have time, as I'm making my lunch, for example. I pack my own lunch to economize, and I listen to Gatto give an interview, and he says that American children, they are the fruit of the school system. A long line of Western thinkers, he says, all of them childless men like Comte, have understood that breaking a child's ties with the past cracks him away from his own family. And separating parents and children has been the goal of childless male philosophers since Plato wrote about its value in the Republic. Without strong family ties, he said, children are easier subjects for central planning. He says, the children I teach are cruel to each other. They lack compassion for misfortune. They laugh at weakness. They have contempt for people whose need for help shows too plainly. The children I teach, he says, are uneasy with intimacy, solitude, or unguarded speech. They cannot deal with genuine intimacy because of a lifelong habit of preserving a secret inner self beneath their public school personalities. Personalities, John Taylor Gatto says, which must remain open at all times, as a prostitute's body is open to the constant inspection and ranking of strangers. Our children's public personalities are kept constantly under surveillance by authorities in a orgy of voyeurism. I think that's a fantastic phrase. The outer persona of the children I teach is fabricated from artificial bits and pieces of behavior borrowed from television or acquired by studying the preferences of school teachers. The real self is too small and vulnerable to bear long time exposure because it has no privacy in which to develop strength and integrity. Since exposure is required in intimate relationships, these must be avoided. My children are not who they pretend to be. Most of them aren't anybody at all, thanks to school. It's frightening, he says. The children I teach are strikingly materialistic, following the lead of school teachers who materialistically grade everything, and television mentors who offer everything in the world for sale. The children I teach, he says, are dependent, passive, timid in the presence of new challenges. This timidity is often masked by surface bravado, by the exuberance of youth, by anger or aggressiveness. But underneath the bluster is emptiness, mirroring the great vacuum, the black hole of government schooling, even on Signal Mountain, which draws in vast energies but emits little. I could name other conditions school reform must tackle, but by now you have grasped my thesis. Schools and television cause these pathologies. It's a simple matter of arithmetic. Between schooling and television, all the time children have to become adults is eaten up. That is what has destroyed the American family. It is no longer a factor in the education of its young. It no longer has access to its own children. And that is an indictment from the New York Teacher of the Year and the New York City Teacher of the Year once or twice before he was fired. John Taylor Gatto, one of my favorite writers, a historian who tells things in many ways as they are, though he's highly hostile to John Calvin, whom is a writer who I greatly esteem. Well, this is David Tulis. I do thank you for giving me a couple of minutes of your time. And I've got some important messages for you to hear.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
McCune Williams and Ashley PLLC offers a full array of legal services to meet the needs of businesses and individuals. Our attorneys represent diverse backgrounds, interests, and legal emphasis, but we share one common goal: providing the highest quality legal services to our clients through the combination of our talents, experience, and expertise. In each case, we strive to tailor those services to meet each client's specific circumstances. Business law, business organization, civil litigation, commercial litigation, conservatorship and guardian law, bankruptcy law, just to name a few. With over 188 years of combined experience, McCune Williams Ashley PLLC is here to help you and your business succeed. MWALawfirm.com. That's MWALawfirm.com. Call 423-756-6400. That's 423-756-6400.
Is your career taking you where you want to go? If not, talk to Covenant Group Insurance, especially if you like helping people. Call and learn how you can work for yourself, but not by yourself. Intense but free training, plus a fantastic lead program, plus office support equals your success, your prosperity. Gross at least $75,000 your first year selling insurance. Call Steve or Jada for a confidential interview. That's 855-8484. Maybe the most important call you'll make all year.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available at a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson, Crystal Brook, Appleton. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929. There's a reason why Alliance Physical Therapy is a choice of professionals and those who care about first-class, top-notch service and treatment. Because at Alliance Physical Therapy of Chattanooga, we don't just treat the symptoms in your body. Whether you're suffering from stiffness, muscle spasms, back pain, chronic headaches every day, stress of life demanding more and more of you, Alliance Physical Therapy takes a holistic approach to healing, mind, body, and soul. Alliance Physical Therapy with a location near you and 9 others in the Chattanooga area. If you don't have a doctor or if your physician's plan for chronic pain is not working, Alliance Physical Therapy will help. Visit Alliance Physical Therapy on the web at nopainpt.com. That's nopainpt.com. Alliance Physical Therapy.
Looking for a dream home, or maybe you're just a first-time home buyer? Let an agent get you started today on your house search. If you're a real estate agent looking for a change, see what Exit can do for you. The agents at Exit Realty Scenic City are confident they can sell your house. They can do it in 99 days or less. If no one works harder for you than agents at Exit Realty Scenic City, licensed in Tennessee and Georgia. Exit sells quickly all types of commercial and residential properties and vacant land. Looking for a dream home, or maybe you're just a first-time home buyer? Let an agent get you started today on your house search. If you're a real estate agent looking for a change, see what Exit can do for you. Training, technology, branding, culture, and financial freedom. Again, Exit Realty Scenic City. Call 423-551-EXIT to learn more. Call 551-EXIT and learn more.
Terms and restrictions may apply.
We're at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Yes, ma'am. 2 orders of nachos with beef and beans and 2 beers. Chattanooga loves its Amigos restaurants, but the Amigos in Hickson has something extra. NCAA, the week's big game. How about a house wine? Really good. Big name beers. Just tell Maria what you want. And here at Amigos, margaritas are popular. And it's only $3 a day. If you come here on a game day, Saturday, a Natty Light is only $2.25. Here at Amigos, just during NCAA, Natty Light, $2.25. Amigos Mexican Restaurant in Hickson. The happy hour is 3 to 9 today and every day. I'd say the atmosphere is festive. Look at that huge TV. It's like being amid the fans under a bright sun, but without all the heat. Stay cool. Quench your thirst. Amigos, between the Staples and Hobby Lobby. Take the table next to mine and enjoy the great NCAA game with friend or family here at the Cantina at Amigos Mexican Restaurant. Okay, shh, it's starting.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
AM 1240 Nooga Radio News. Russell Stroud reporting. A new contestant added to the race for mayor. With just a few days till the Thursday at 12 deadline, Gail M. Francis, a former staff member at Tennessee Temple University teaching phys ed and sign language, is running for mayor. The qualifying deadline is Thursday at noon, quickly approaching. She joins David Crockett, Larry Groen, Chris Long, and the incumbent Andy Burke in the race for mayor. Keep it tuned here for continuing election coverage on Nooga Radio. After the Woodmore bus tragedy, the first lawsuit has been filed on behalf of the deceased. Attorneys for the parents of Ziona Harris are now seeking $5.5 million in a complaint filed in circuit court. The complaint is against Durham School Services and the driver, Johnthony Walker. It also names Thomas Built Buses, the company which constructed the bus, which failed to put seatbelts inside. After police got a call about a car crash, they went to the scene and found a very intoxicated man, they say, who offered $10 and then $20 for officers to just forget about the whole thing. He was then arrested.
Expect cloudy and damp weather out there through your afternoon. A few spotty showers will move through, highs into the lower 50s. Tonight, drier, a little cooler, lows mid-30s. For Wednesday, dry and cool, highs closer to 50, turning colder Wednesday night, breezy and cold all day Thursday. Get ready for that next surge of cold air with Dodge City Ski Shop, featuring the largest selection of cold weather clothing around. From head to toe, they have it all for all shapes and sizes at Dodge City, East Brainerd Road, Chattanooga. And I'm Smart Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ford.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Here's what advertisers are saying about AM 1240. HotNewsTalkRadio.com.
Radio station, they really care. They're always calling me probably once a week, checking on me, seeing how things going, see if they want to change any of the ads or do anything different, seeing what my needs are. Gotten business off the ads that you do for me, and seems to be working well at this point.
Prices were very fair. Areas in this town that we aren't able to get other ways, your radio station is able to help us out, and I really appreciate that.
We've been very pleased with the services we've got. It seems like everybody over there cares about what they're going to do, how it's going to work for us on this end. And we've been very impressed with the creativity of the ads that we've heard. And they always seem to be right on point, even without us having to come up with what's going to be said.
Been doing business with News Talk Radio for quite some time. It's the best place and the best value you can get for your advertisement. The commercials are great. They're very professional. I was actually blown away.
The commercial that they put together was awesome. It was way far above all the other radio stations we've dealt with. The best we've had yet, guarantee you, by far.
AM 1240 HotNewsTalkRadio.com gets results. Let us get results for your business. For no obligation free consultation, call General Sales Manager Steve Johnson. Call 423-240-5459. That's 240-5459. Or you can always email Steve at NoogaRadioSteve@gmail.com. That's NoogaRadioSteve@gmail.com. AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. We get results.
Herbert Thornberry's law practice downtown is a very busy place. He churns out cases and has a kind of industrial way of garnering cases and handling them. And he, at the very top of this huge stack of moving parts, sometimes has in him the means of writing what I would call legal poetry. Now, you might know Herbert Thornberry, the lawyer. and you would laugh at that. But there is something in one of his recent filings in the Tally Road bus killings that, to my ears, smacks of poetry. I know you're laughing. Well, this is David Tulis, and I want to make you laugh over things that tickle me. And if you're tickled by Herbert Thornberry's quote in his filing, in his lawsuit, if you think they're more than just dull lines in a dreary claim upon a corporation and a hapless, scraggly-headed driver, well, you're becoming just a little bit more like David Tulis, seeing things a little bit more as David Tulis does, the Noogacentrist, right? The Noogacentric guru, the guru of local economy and the free market. That's me, David Tulis, right here at the David Tulis program, the host and mild-mannered editor of this show, and the editor wearing the bow tie with a clash today. There's a clash. There's a clash of Nooganomics.com. I say the bow tie clashes because my wife, Jeanette, is visiting her mother in Huntsville today after her mom couldn't get out of bed with a very strong pain in her leg. She finds out that it's just a cyst, a very minor thing, and not a clot. Jeanette will be back today, but I got out of the house without being properly inspected. There was no inspection of David Tulis by his love and bride, Jeanette. But I'm here, and I'm delighted at Herbert Thornberry today, and I just want you to know how. Herbert Thornberry, lawyer, and here's his sentence. Okay, this is pure poetry because it makes an admission. It makes you might say a concession of the legal establishment to you. And your Hispanic neighbor, by the way. Your Hispanic neighbor cares more about your constitutional rights than you do, even though he doesn't know it. And that's because he has them and is actually exercising constitutional right that you, my listener, don't know you have and don't exercise. So here's what Herbert Thornberry says. Defendant Durham operates a full-service bus transportation company through use of employees, agents, servants, and or contractors who perform student transportation services within the scope of their employment, apparent authority, agency, or contract to act for the corporation. Defendant Durham is liable for its own negligence. It goes on, but the part that I'm wanting to highlight in the way of poetry is this very phrase, a full student transportation company, and then it uses employees, agents, servants, and or contractors who, no, that's part two, who do what? Perform student transportation services. That's just beautiful. It's so comprehensive. It's so real. It's so deep. I can hear the hum of the American economy as I hear that phrase, the giant interstate complex of business and profit and service and money and repairs and docks and wharves and lined up assets bringing about prosperity to the American people and profit to the owners. Well, that's because the Durham Bus Services is involved in transportation. It's involved in being a full-service carrier for hire. And that one sentence by Herbert Thornberry, who gets today's literary award, has it all in one sentence. Now, you'll find out more about this, why this is such an intriguing sentence, by going to Nooganomics.com. And there I have a post today about the bus deaths and the secret revealed by lawyers in their filings. Now, I've distilled what they say, and I make it so that you can give a hoot. Okay, you can care about what they say by finding out, by diluting and drawing out the key words, the key words that are a picture of your servitude today. And we are in servitude to the state, and I can live with that, and I know you do. But what I want to do is make you uncomfortable. I want there to be a little spur in your underwear, a little beach nugget there with little prickles on it. You just can't get rid of it. You just can't adjust yourself to be comfortable because it's always there, kind of poking you in the backside. That's what David Tulis does. The man who's the slow man of Chattanooga. I'm the slow man of Chattanooga because I just don't understand how things work. I don't understand how they work, and so when I ask questions of someone who doesn't understand. Like, for example, the recent interview that Sheriff Jim Hammond was gracious enough to give me, I asked questions that only a dumbbell would ask, just the dumbest questions. And yet, I would like to suggest that they are the ones that if you hear the question, the answer is, well, it's interesting, but not as compelling. The question is often better than the answer. And I do believe that's what happens. I do believe that's how the world works. Sometimes the question answers itself. By being asked, it has the answer that matters. And the answer by the mayor or the official or the sheriff, the city council member, is simply just so much hate, just so much filler material on the page or in your ear if you're listening to the radio, and you are able to dispense with it and not really matter much. Now, in Sequatchie County, northwest of Chattanooga and Hamilton County, there's a case going down. There may be fireworks at the end of the week between the city of Dunlap, which is a municipal corporation, an agent of the state, and a couple who are refusing admittance, a couple that is involved now for more than 15 years repairing their house. It is a building that was built after the war to prevent Southern independence by an early circuit judge, and they are in that house, living in it, enjoying its fruits, and making improvements. But they've been under a ban from Chancery Court at the behest of the city and the city inspector, Mr. Bennett. I hope later today to post my story about this, and it's based on my thinking a lot about the court record. I only had 4 hours yesterday to look at it, and I got up there. The court closed at 4 its time. That was 5 our time. And I didn't really have time to get everything in that I wanted to, or to double check some things I had made note of. So I did the best I could, right? There may be some little errors in what I report, but hopefully in God's good grace, they're irrelevant and harmless. But in the report there at Nooganomics.com, and in the report to you here, where in the place where it matters, there is the essential thing to note that the filings did not reveal. The filings did not reveal them, but I had, because God has given me some grace and some ability to ask dumb questions, to see the problem here. And it is a problem that Stephen Greer, the city attorney, perhaps his hope would not be brought up. And it is a remedy that Thomas and Carol Gaddy in their late 60s and early 70s have not really touched on. And I say they haven't touched on it because I read their filings, much of which quotes God, it quotes the Bible, it cites constitutional provisions. For example, one terrific constitutional provision, if I can find it here in my my report on my computer, says that the constitutional rights. Yeah, okay, here it is. It says the Declaration of Rights hereto prefixed is declared to be a part of the Constitution of this state and shall never be violated on any pretense whatsoever. Okay, never violated. Got that? On any pretense. Got that? Whatsoever. Okay, and to guard against transgression of the high powers we have delegated, we the people have delegated, we declare that everything in the Bill of Rights contained is accepted out of the general powers of the government and shall forever remain inviolate. That's Article 2, Section 16. Now, that's very important, and that should scare public officials. That should scare sheriffs, deputies. That should frighten mayors. That should give a sense of uneasiness to city council members who let things go, right? Who let things go. They, in the legislative branch of their cities, the cities led by mayors who are the executive branch, right? Cities in Tennessee have the same tripartite division of powers just as in the national government. There's a legislative branch, the council or the commission. Then there's the executive branch that executes the ordinances, right? Makes things happen. That's the mayor, and equal to the chief presider. In Washington, the presider in chief is the president, right? President, same thing. The man presiding. And then you have the judiciary, which is the court system in a town. That's the city court or the traffic court or the sessions court. These are inferior courts, as they're called in the Tennessee Constitution, and they're not courts of record. They don't have juries, and so they're inferior. They're designed to expedite cases, to get things moving along. That is the grinding part. The heavy molars, you might say, of the modern state is the sessions and city court system. in which constitutional rights are routinely ignored, and people who don't know their rights enough to assert them routinely get ground up within. Right. That's why they're there for the ignorant. The ignorant go there. And what has happened in Dunlap is this: you have the couple, the Gaddys, who are belligerent claimants in person. They're claiming their rights. They're asserting their rights. And then you have a claimant on the other side acting civilly, making civil claims upon this couple. The demand is for an inspection, quote unquote inspection, under an ordinance. I think it's Ordinance 88, that prohibits shacks and ramshackle places as public nuisances and public dangers. That's the nuisance ordinance. And the house is under repair, and an external investigation along the property line suggested to the inspector that this place is potentially uninhabitable, and we're going to have to tear it down if it can't be repaired. Right, we're going to condemn it. So that's the nature of the dispute. The couple saying, no, you're not coming on our land to inspect it. The city now moving toward contempt proceedings. There's already been an order of contempt filed by the court. Yes, there's a contempt order. There's a fining process every day. The couple that too poor to afford an attorney, cannot afford an attorney, would cost $200 an hour, and so a minimum of $7,000. I told Mrs. Gaddy that her case would cost $25,000 to pursue in court with the aid of an attorney. So she, having some interest in law, having a real estate background, very sharp person, I would say, a good person to have represent the cause of liberty, if you will. She is handling the case without counsel. It's called pro se, which means for yourself in Latin. Pros, se, say is a reflexive word. It's the same in French, so it's for yourself. And she's acting without counsel. So too poor to afford an attorney. So the question, I've talked with her. I've written stories about her. You can find them only at Nooganomics.com. And the question is this. All right, it comes down to one question of authority. Does the city have the authority to violate the federal Fourth Amendment against unwarranted search and seizures, or the Bill of Rights provision in the Tennessee Constitution, which prohibits searches without a warrant? The answer is no. The city says, well, we're a corporation. We have civil authority. We have civil jurisdiction. And now it has turned the case into a criminal matter by soliciting and getting the threat of criminal sanctions under what's called contempt. Under contempt, people can be held indefinitely in jail for not obeying the court. And that's how the court asserts its authority over the common, the common horde, right? Like you and me. Courts do that by contempt findings. This is a criminal matter, and I would say if you're accused of contempt, you have to immediately demand a jury trial, so that the people can determine if there's contempt or not. That's the only way to defang the judicial criminal individuals. It's done summarily, meaning in an instant it can be done, and so someone accused of contempt and the Hamel gavel comes down, contempt, then you immediately have to say, I demand a jury trial. You have to do that. The judge may say, well, I'm sorry, the gavel hit first, and you didn't ask in time, so no. But that exposes him to acting in his person, in his personal capacity, as opposed to in his judicial lawful capacity. Though we do have in Tennessee, we have a very evil system, and that is sovereign immunity, total immunity by court actors. It's almost impossible to assail them legally for damages in their actions, because they have this godlike status in practice and in law. How did they get that? Did you give that to them? Well, in Dunlap, the question comes down to this: is there an affidavit of probable cause? No. I looked in the filings. The first filing is by the mayor. It's an affidavit stating that the city demands an inspection and it sees problems in the property, and that's the affidavit. But it's not of a criminal nature. It is a civil affidavit signed by Mayor Dwayne Land, and it's not a criminal matter. So to meet that requirement, to have the authority to search, the affidavit of probable cause has to be of a criminal matter personally witnessed or has the signer of the affidavit has to have personal knowledge of it, and then that has to be filed as a criminal matter, right? And that can be challenged that way. That those affidavits can be challenged. Here we have something that's civil, and it does not meet the test. It does not meet the test. Now, this defense that I'm proposing does not appear in the filings, many filings by Carol Gaddy and her husband Thomas. He always signs first, but the work is really hers. She married him when she was 17. This is a long-standing, loving couple, and he's of course the lead. He's also a defendant in the civil case against him. So it's in Chancery Court. A very honorable Judge Stewart, a Chancery judge there, recused himself, and I will be mentioning that in the case. He said, well, because of accusations that I can't be fair, I recuse myself. And from what I can see, that looks like a very good and honorable thing that the Sequatchie County judge did. He has offices in Jasper, which is in the southern part of the county. Meanwhile, a circuit judge, Thomas Graham, has the case, and so he's hearing the case instead of his Chancery colleague. But the question is, it was a crime scene, and if there's not been a crime scene, then the city simply has no authority. It simply has no authority to go onto this land. We don't recognize open searches. We don't recognize unwarranted searches unless by consent, right? If the Gaddys consent, then they have nothing to object to. They have nothing to which to object, okay, I should say. If the Gaddys consent, there's no issue, right? There's no issue anymore. There's no fight. There's a fight in Dunlap because a highly principled, indignant, and I'd say well-spoken couple are saying no. We're saying no, but they have not demanded the affidavit of probable cause. And I don't give legal advice. I'm just giving my estimation of this problem. Okay, so don't take what I'm saying as legal advice. I'm not paying. You don't pay me for legal advice. I don't give legal advice, but I do say that that's what I see. I see that in my analysis of the filings in City of Dunlap versus Gaddy, and so. You have to be, my listener, to be a free person, you have to be a belligerent claimant person. Now, what was that again? Yeah, belligerent claimant in person. It's belligerent, you're warlike, you're aggressive, you're militant. Claimant, you're making a claim. You're claiming something and you're saying, that's mine, I'm not giving it up. Get your hands off of it, okay? And then the in-person part simply means that you can't delegate that work of having someone defend you. You have to do it personally right then. And that's done when the cops demand to search your car or search your house. If you say yes, you're not a belligerent claimant person. You can't assert a right later. It has to be asserted personally at the moment it is challenged. If you do not challenge an abuse, you do not challenge a threat against your rights, guess what? Guess what? You don't have any. Now here, it's funny, Americans are they're such patsies. We're so weak. We claim to be a tough people. We claim to be an aggressive people. We run an empire, and we conquer nations. We have military men. We have military operations in more than 50 countries. And yet here in our own country, when military force, when threat is applied to us, we just throw our hands up and say, okay, go ahead. Somehow we don't want to offend somebody. We just don't want to offend the officer. We don't want to offend the bureaucrat. And so we are a warlike and militant people, in a way deserving of what we have. We deserve terrorism. That's something that Americans deserve because they have stoked the fires of terrorism in the Middle East. And so, when it comes to being warlike here at home against people who are threatening us, people from, representatives of the good people, we just throw our hands up and say, okay, I don't want to be mean. You're as if you're afraid of someone raising his voice at you. Is that really what you're afraid of? That the officer will come in? No. When he does that, does that mean that you have to do it? And if he just says, sir, could you please open your door? Could you let me search your car? If he says it that way, you won't do it. But if he says, sir, I demand to search your car now, it's for public safety, do you agree? Do you give in? So the difference of a few decibels makes you cave in, makes you give up. Well, I understand that. We've all been in situations like that. But just because you yielded a right one time and gave in one time and surrendered one time doesn't mean you have to do it everything. So the assertion of a right can always be asserted because your rights are reborn every day. Every day you have new rights to assert. You don't have to let your past transgressions, right, your past apathy hold you back. You don't have to be consistent. In other words, you can be inconsistent. One day you give in, and the next day you say no, and that's the key word, no.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
Step aside, sir. I'm searching your trunk.
Is that all serious? That doesn't even cover anything.
We trusted you. We gave you all that authority, all that discretion, and you do this to our little company? Don't you think that's wrong? That's called embezzlement.
I didn't mean to do it. It didn't go right. I shot him. There he was. And then it just happened.
My son, only 18, facing drug charges. Oh no.
We got one of those mortgage fraud creeps. Go!
Attorney Clay Whitaker. Clay Whitaker, 756-6400, 756-6400. Free consultation in criminal cases. He'll get justice for you. 756-6400, 756-6400. Clay Whitaker.
How about we change that to Built in the USA?
For over 21